What if we told you that the entire future of CBS is at stake and the FCC might be ready to drive a stake straight through the heart of the legacy media? Billions of dollars, folks, could be, well, affected by this, as well as the future of network TV. We'll dive into the 60 Minutes interview, now fully exposed and revealed to the world as perhaps having been a massive cover-up and maybe even election interference. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and yes, we can say that now again, welcome back to the Pro Show, where we are always having fun, coming to you from a studio in somewhere sunny USA, where the sun is always shining and the dark clouds are far away. Today we're talking about CBS 60 Minutes and allegations by President Trump, as well as investigations by the FCC. The ramifications have the potential to completely upend network television, entertainment, and beyond. We're here to tell you it's being declared perhaps one of the biggest scandals in all of broadcast news. It's a big, big deal. Click the like button. We'll explain every part of it right now. All right, being shared by the Hodge twins, this is the truth. What do you call it? Just a truth? It's just a truth. Okay, well, this is the truth. Well, from Donald J. Trump as he sees it. He says, and well, he's the president, so what he sees is important. He says, CBS in 60 Minutes defrauded the public by doing something which has never to this extent been done before. They 100% removed Kamala's horrible election-changing answers to questions and replaced them with completely different and far better answers taken from another part of the interview. This was election-changing stuff. Election interference, and quite simply, election fraud at a level never seen before. CBS should lose its license. And if you want to talk about the amount of money that would cost, I mean, Lou, what are we talking about in terms of a network that loses its license? How financially devastating would that be?
Billions and billions and billions. And you have to remember, it's not just, oops, we can't do it anymore. It's what do we do with the infrastructure and the people we've got that we have contracts with? What do we do with all those buildings? What do we do with all those affiliate agreements who have a big chunk of their local news filled with national CBS news and suddenly have to back and fill for that 20 minutes out of their half hour at 6 o'clock or whatever it is?
Advertising contracts.
Yeah, well, sure.
So folks, okay, on your notebook right now, as you're taking notes for this PhD level class in legacy media Loserville, mark that down as one of the dangers CBS faces. And the cheaters at 60 Minutes should all be thrown out, and this disreputable news show should be immediately terminated. With the new Democrat scandal that just arose with respect to USAID illegally paying large sums of money to Politico and other media outlets, the question must be asked, was CBS paid for committing the fraud? Many other questions to come. This will go down as the biggest broadcasting scandal in history. Okay, well, sometimes President Trump says things in a very hyperbolic way. Perhaps that's what's happening here. Maybe not, though. Let's go to the post-millennial. It says, breaking, CBS publishes Kamala Harris 60 Minutes transcript revealing edits after Trump filed suit alleging election interference. What's really happening here, though, is, and by the way, this is by the magnificent Libby Emmons. What's really happening here is that the FCC demanded that CBS turn over the full undoctored video. So they had to. We've got it, by the way. We've got it. And what they've been accused of, from my layperson's stance of looking at this, they absolutely doctored this interview for her benefit. There's no, maybe a lawyer would say otherwise, and I don't want to say something that gets us into trouble, so I'm being very careful here to identify myself as somebody with an opinion, but it's how I see it. It says, CBS published a full transcript of a 60 Minutes interview with former presidential candidate Vice President Kamala Harris. The airing of the transcript follows a lawsuit brought against the broadcaster by President Donald L. Trumpo, who alleged that the interview was deceptively edited by the network and constituted election interference. While CBS sought initially to have the case filed in federal court in the Northern District of Texas thrown out, they later began on Monday. CBS gave the Federal Communications Commission an unedited transcript. This came after the FCC asked for it. I would say demanded it. They gave them until the end of the day. CBS turned it over, we believe, at about 11:30 p.m. Eastern. All right, so we've got the thing now. It's out there. You can go watch it. You can go see how bad it is. Here's the context everybody needs to know before we play this. Okay, here's the context. CBS Viacom is owned as you go up the chain, they're owned by Paramount. Paramount is owned by National Amusements. And that, owned by One Miss Redwood, essentially, is for sale. And it's for sale in a way that it's essentially 99% of the way done being sold to Skydance, which is run by the fourth richest family in the world. Okay. The purchase amount, we believe, is somewhere between $4 and $6 billion. The problem is the Trump lawsuit, the penalty if CBS has to pay it actually exceeds the value of CBS. So the executives at CBS want to settle this lawsuit for a much smaller amount as fast as possible because they're afraid that if they don't get this settled, the deal won't go through. And the problem is that if the deal doesn't go through, CBS might not have the money to pay these billions. I mean, we're talking about $10 to $15 billion. They don't have the money to pay for that, and then possibly FCC penalties on top. So we're really looking, and then you've got what Trump said about, they should have their license taken. So you really are looking at CBS staring down. I don't think it's the likely outcome, but it's a possible outcome, right? It is a true potential outcome that CBS goes under and has to be saved by somebody. Let's take a look at this original interview, just so you see how deceptive this whole thing was. This is at Amuse on X. It says, propaganda, 60 Minutes allows Kamala Harris to lie while the cameras are rolling. When they're off, they confront her asking for the truth. This is a snippet. When a problem comes along, you must snip it. This is a snippet from the 60 Minutes interview.
Madam Vice President, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Good to be with you.
By the way, folks, the audio is not going to be great because this is the unedited, the papers are louder than their voices. We apologize. Crank up the volume if you need to. This is completely it's not manicured at all.
Well, can we just get just a little bit of a question, please, so I can get it from the shoulder shot?
Yeah.
1 second. Just 1 second. Okay, thank you.
You need me talking?
Yes, sir.
Well, we were talking about how you're going to pay for it. And I mean, I truly do mean it. Your plans are logical, make logical sense.
Mm-hmm.
The way Washington works is not logical. So how are you going to convince a divided Congress that what you say, your plans, are something that they should all agree to and provide to the American people when they've shown no inclination to do that up to this point?
Is that what you needed?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. 30 seconds of silence, please, for Rutan. Cameras are off.
How will you?
It's going to be taxes. It's going to be literally, if the economists, they're from each spectrum.
But I hear what you're saying
Yeah.
about the economists. This is true.
Yeah.
But Congress is not the economists.
I know, but
All right. That's how the game is really played. Ask the question, make it seem like she's on it. When the cameras stop, really ask the question, let her try to answer it. She can't. She bumbles that wasn't English. So she's incompetent. I'm sorry. That's why she lost. She is incompetent. We just heard. He asked a fake question and they paused for 30 seconds. And then when we're done, she's had like a minute to think about what he asked. And she doesn't have an answer. It's never going to be aired. The whole thing's fake. It's like, even when they're doing this promo, they have somebody who could be the most powerful person in the world literally sit there and nod her head for a fake question, for a fake interview, so that they can put that out as a promo. It's not real. It doesn't come from a real interview. And who knows? Who knows how bad it was? Did she have all the questions beforehand? We don't know. But we know one thing. When the cameras stop rolling and they really ask the question, she can't answer in English. So how in the world they get a vice president that's worse than a senile president? I don't know, but they managed it. Panel, what do you make of where we are in terms of how devious this was and the penalties that may be now assigned to CBS?
This is massive. This is huge. Usually, people have talked about editing and, deceptive editing and all of that. But usually we don't really get evidence with the, raw footage in order to compare. In this way, we now have it. We can now look at it, and I will say, bro, I don't know if you want to bring another editor to the whole network here, but some of those edits were really creative, and we got to maybe bring some of that talent on board now, Jack. but no, some of the edits were really, really shameful, and really it made Kamala Harris, the candidate running for the presidential election. It made her look just like it was like a completely different person when you looked at the raw footage versus what you actually saw in the edit. And yes, absolutely. I think the FCC was right in order to pursue this case. I think charges should be filed and pursued, which I believe they are going to be. The FCC chair has made it very clear that he's looking at all kinds of things, not just CBS, but also to entities who might have gotten funding from various different means, like PBS, for example, NPR. So they're definitely on this kick of, hey, look, listen, we need accurate journalism, not this fake propaganda, which I think this was. So this could have devastating consequences for CBS and the entities that own them.
Now, I would like to go beyond CBS. If you do a little history, the last time something this scandalous broke like this was actually portrayed in a movie many of you may have seen called Quiz Show, about the game show scandals in the late 50s. And that caused the Communications Act of 1934 to be amended. Now, the Communications Act of 1934 was when FDR signed a thing that changed the radio regulations to being the Federal Communications Commission when it was created. And it didn't just say, oh, you game show people can't do this thing. It said nobody can do this thing. Now, putting aside the huge jeopardy for CBS, for Sumner Redstone's widow, for everybody at Paramount, for all of that, any regulation that comes out of this is going to apply to everybody else too. And so they will no longer have the excuse of, oh, well, we didn't know that was wrong. We goofed. Sorry. Because this is going to change law forever, just as that seemingly innocuous game show thing did. So hold on to your hats. There's a lot more down the road here.
And I got to say too, Lou, that the super chat that came in earlier about standing and whether or not Trump could even have the ability to go forth with this lawsuit, so he might not win. It's way bigger than that. I know that's a $10 to $15 billion lawsuit. Like it's monumental. Yet at the same time, the damage that would be done to CBS if the FCC revokes their license, and this might do it. I mean, this is so bad. We're about to show one more clip so people can understand it. It's rife. The whole thing is rotten to the core. They really did attempt to alter the election. We believe. Everybody hear that? We believe. I believe. I don't want to speak for the panel, but I don't see any other way to see it. Maybe somebody can convince me otherwise. But let's go to the clip and just note, folks, that listen. I know there's that temptation to say, well, nothing ever changes. Nothing ever gets, it's business as usual. Is Doge business as usual? Is what you're seeing over the last 3 weeks business as usual? Don't discount that CBS could lose the license. And if they lose the license, that's like a fast food place that is condemned by the inspector. It's BAD. Michelle, is it as bad as we all thought, or is it worse in terms of the media collusion? Because the media seems to be now essentially just one and the same with one particular political party.
Yeah, I think it may be worse for some, but I think for some of us who have watched, I mean, do you know the numbers off any of you off the top of your head? The amount of bad coverage Trump got his first presidency, it was like good press to bad press. It was like 90 in the high 90s bad press. So they've been showing us who they are for years, but I think what is different here is it is now getting exposed in a systematic way that people can no longer say, oh, you're just saying that because you're a conservative. Oh, you're just saying that because you voted for Trump. It is getting exposed on a level that you have to deny truth, deny your eyes, deny what you're hearing, seeing, to be able to accept the fact that we have not been living in a country that the powers that be in the media complex have been working with our government, even social media, to just put out straight up propaganda to the American people to get the people they wanted in. And honestly, too, a story that should have already exposed people to what crooks are in the media is the fact that these are the same people that lied to the American public for 4 years about the President of the United States' cognitive health.
Sharp as a tack, Michelle. Sharp as a
Yes,
tack.
he's so cogent, as they said on ABC.
And apparently the vice presidents as well. Yeah, I mean, you saw this, like, okay, so for anybody that also saw the interview with Brett Baer on Fox, and you would compare the two interviews, you could easily tell the doctoring of this interview before any of this stuff came out. So it was obvious, at least to somebody like me, when Kamala speaks, when she's just being asked questions or whatever, she makes no sense whatsoever. She rambles on about very strange things like yellow school buses, and it possibly because, you know, she has experience riding the short bus when she was younger. I don't know. Can't speak to that or not. But what I can say is that I am so glad that things have worked out. What we noticed in this past election is that no matter how much you attempt to deceive the American people, we're smarter than that. Like, and it was really great to see that happen.
And, you know, it's funny because they tried to compare one of their presidents recently to Abraham Lincoln, and he's the one who said, you can't fool all the people all the time. By the way, I read a story, I guess it was yesterday, from one of the top, I think he's the attorney general in California now, I forget his name, where he said if she wants to run, everybody else will get out of her way and let her be the nominee for governor of California. Boy,
she's part of the Woody Brown side of things, right?
Well, but talk about frying pan and fire as far as Gavin to Kamala to Chance or whatever, Tinker to Everett to Chance.
I think we changed the name of California to Kamala, and I think we'll understand exactly why it's still burning down. This is the beginning, the very beginning of when she sits down, and again, this is raw footage. The beginning of when she sits down and the interview begins. You see if she comes across as someone who was worthy of the spot. No matter if you're on the left or the right or whatnot. I mean, listen, there are really intelligent people on the left. The classically liberal people I think still exist. You've got the Ben Shapiro's of the world. You've got not Ben Shapiro, different. Josh Shapiro, listen to me. Ben Shapiro on the left. No, Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. You've got others. She's not, well, let's play the clip and you see what you think, folks. And then you see if you think CBS might be in hot water.
Okay, and then you know that mold is at an all-time high today, which is the one thing I am allergic to.
Yeah.
Okay. Pollen is down.
Mold is up.
Mold is up. You know, I know that as a matter of fact, because I was watching CBS this morning.
There you go.
Now that I think about it.
Learn something new every day.
Indeed.
See you, Chris? I'm going to just stand up once. Good? Yep.
Coming around. Don?
Yeah.
Got it on both?
It's going to be to clear the background. Good, Don? Yes.
No problem.
Hey, Lou, let me pause it for just a second. For those who don't know what they just did, snapping.
You know, it's funny. I was just thinking the same thing. I should explain that.
Please,
Folks, this is called.
It's actually useful anymore.
Well, yeah, it is because it's actually got something in it that's triggering in the camera and in the recording. Once upon a time, we had to match up picture and sound, and they're on two literally physically separate pieces of, in those days, magnetic film and film, an optical film. So the idea is you find the point, that one frame where that wham takes place when that stick hits, and you match it up with the visuals, and it all stays in sync. Now, not quite so much with time code, but even so, yeah, that we do it because that's the way we've always done it. And that is why what is called a second camera assistant, the person who does that, who also loads the cameras with film or tape or whatever, In England, it's called the clapper loader because that's the clapstick. No aspersions intended by that name.
Folks, we're not recommending you go out there and call any of your friends or foes clapper. What did you say? Clapper loaders?
Yes, that's the English term.
Yeah,
You'll
folks,
see it in the credits in English movies or Lucasfilm movies made in England or whatever.
Unless you're in the British proper, folks, perhaps don't say that to your friends. Here we go.
Do what you need to do.
Everybody happy? Good?
I'm good.
All right. Well, Madam Vice President, one, thank you for doing this.
Of course.
And thank you for inviting us into your home.
Of course.
We're going to be running this on the anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel.
October 7th.
So let's just start with
Hang on
Israel.
1 second, Bill.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got someone in the background. I'm afraid you're gonna have to re-ask that.
Okay, whoever's in the dining room? It was me. Okay.
So yeah, just to start with Israel.
Okay.
The events of the past few weeks have pushed us to the brink, if not into, an all-out regional war in the Middle East. What can the U.S. do at this point to stop this from spinning out of control?
Well, let's start with October 7th, because obviously what we do now must be in the context of what has happened. And as I reflect on a year ago and that 1,200 people were massacred, young people at a festival, at a music festival, 250 hostages were taken, including Americans. Women were brutally raped. And as I said then, I maintain Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. And as
Now, I want everybody to notice she has a good, at least a cogent. I mean, I'm not going to assess for you politically how you view the answer. I'm going to say she has a cogent response. She's also had time to think about this, and there's no doubt in my mind that they said, here's going to be the first question. Given how this plays out, so just see how long this lasts, folks. I just want you to see, because we're going to get into the part that really was contentious, okay? So give us just another 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll stop and we'll talk about it as CBS now is facing significant fire. Here we go.
As we fast forward into what we have seen in the ensuing weeks and months, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we know that, and I think most agree, this war has to end. And that has to be our number one imperative. And that has been our number one imperative. How can we get this war to end? Well, critical elements of that are we have got to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. We have to get aid in. We have to lay the path toward a two-state solution. I do believe that we must maintain that as an objective, no matter how out of reach it seems at the moment. And the work that we have to do is also pay attention to what is happening every day in the region and put U.S. resources into everything we can do diplomatically and otherwise to de-escalate what is happening in the region.
We supply Israel with billions of dollars in military aid. And yet Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be charting his own course. The Biden-Harris administration has pressed him to agree to a ceasefire. He's resisted. You urged him not to go into Lebanon. He went in anyway. He has promised to make Iran pay for the missile attack, and that has the potential of expanding the war. Does the U.S. have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Well, let's start with this. On this subject, the aid that we have given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And I think that is the most recent example of why what we do to assist in their defense around military aid is important. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is without any question our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. Now, the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done, which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire. And we're not going to stop in terms of putting that pressure on Israel and in the region, including with other leaders in the region, including Arab leaders.
But it seems that
Now, we'll pause there. We get into the point now where they start editing, but I want to say that one of the things they may not have wanted to get out there was the idea that the U.S. government was pressuring Israel to end the war and do a full-blown ceasefire. So it's just interesting to me that we did the first question, she was extremely cogent. You get to the second question, and in that second question, the follow-up question, she starts saying things that might get the U.S. in trouble in terms of being able to negotiate with Israel on how this is going to play out. And it continues to devolve. We don't have time to play it all, but I just want to say a lot of this you didn't see ever aired on CBS. And it seems like what they essentially did was they came in with the magic eraser and they said, whatever makes Kamala look bad, start taking it out. Take it out and piece it back together again. Let's tape it together so that she looks as best as she possibly can. Folks, this is out there. You can go find it on X. You can watch the entire thing. It's been released by the FCC for the world. So we're going to play it. And that's what we can play. But we want to say CBS in a whole lot of trouble right now for deceptive editing, changing things. And of course, you saw in that first clip, just stuff like, let me put it this way, inarticulately. It's interesting to me that at the end of the interview, when the cameras turn off, a question is asked that she clearly was never prepped for, and she just went into non-English. Like, I don't even know what she was saying, and that's the problem. We'll play that one more time. Let me play it one more time, just so people can see that. Let's get that pulled up. Here we go, folks. One more time, just so you can see. This was Kamala Harris when she didn't know, we believe, what the question was going to be because the cameras are off and it's over.
how will you?
It's going to be taxes. It's going to be literally the economists. I mean, they're from each spectrum.
But I hear what you're saying
Yeah.
about the economists. This is true,
Yeah.
but not the economists.
I know.
It's going to be the economists, politicians, Congress, words. It's going to be words. It's going to be a lot of words. Guys, I think as this investigation continues, this is this is speculative. I think they're going to find out that she was given a heads up on all the questions. I
think, you guys let me know if you think this is wrong. I just think what they've done, where we see how the Biden administration was able to force Facebook and whether it's CBS doing this interview, in all reality, this is way worse than Watergate. Nixon was a massively popular president. He was going to win in a landslide no matter what. Like this is insane level. Like they were 100%. Let's go back to 2020 and use Time Magazine's own words. We fortified the election. Like these people are trying to cheat the American people, like in an election, and that is, this is huge news.
Right, and when she says something in the conversation about, they want Israel to end the war and ceasefire and all, that's the kind of stuff we need to know as the American public. We need to know these sorts of things in full. That hey, you're using our influence to do these other things beyond hey, defend yourself. And it's not that I'm saying that she should be condemned for that or that she should be praised for that. I'm saying that we should know that so that we can make a wise decision in the election, and maybe we're not. Maybe we weren't supposed to even be able to. I don't know.
If I could make one more media point about this beyond the politics, which, by the way, when you see her face troubling over that answer, what you see her mind going is, what can I say that won't blow the Jewish vote in the election?
Yes.
That's what she's calculating visibly on camera. But the question is this, people talk about unscripted reality TV. This guy interviewing her is not a bad interviewer per se.
Supposed to be one of the best.
But when people see this, they're going to understand that all of these dapper, cogent, clear, together people that they see on their screen aren't. That they just fumble around in the dark like the rest of us, and thank God for editing. And that there is no such thing as unscripted and spontaneous. I mean, there's people who talk about Walter Cronkite and how he was the most trusted man in America and he wasn't ideological. Well, he was ideological. He just didn't let it show very much. But these guys, I'm not talking about ideology and party and who they want to win. I'm just talking about these are the top paid, top level people, like those people at the debates that made all the silly statements. And they're not really, really as polished as we think they are, thanks to the process. So I think that's going to be a wake-up call for everybody. The straightest, the most honest interviewer is going to get looked at with a little more scrutiny by the average person saying, yeah, but I've seen what that funny move you do when the camera's off. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with you, Lou.
It's going to completely demystify this whole thing of being an anchor, of being an interviewer. And about time.
Speaking of demystifying, I'm going to give Vash the last word to demystify what we've been seeing. Vash, what did you think?
I am just absolutely appalled. I think for the reasons that Michelle and Lou brought up here, it is appalling to see from a news organization that's supposed to be unbiased. We know the bias exists. We can see it on screen right now, and we experienced it throughout 2024. There's no question about that. But to edit clips in such a way that reframe and recontextualize words and statements provided by one of the political candidates, I think one of the interview questions about about immigration wasn't even aired, I believe. And that was a number 3 issue. When you're looking at Rasmussen reports, for example, number 3 in terms of the importance for the American voting public, we have to know their answer on these issues. And when a question was aired, you might have gotten a 5-6 second response, which kind of feels unnatural in the edit if you watch long enough right there. So people are they're doing the work, they're matching things up where things were taken out, where things were actually put on screen. And it is so deceptive. This is going to, I think, tarnish the reputation of CBS forever, even if they do get out of this. And going forward, I mean, you're gonna see, I think, the media apparatus in this country be reshaped. If by nobody else, then maybe 47 himself, when he's like, hey, look, listen, if you have a license to go on air, well, now you're going to start paying for that. And maybe there might be a review process attached to that. We don't know. We'll see.
And by the way, compare this to Trump sitting down with Joe Rogan. Unedited for 3 hours. If he makes a mistake, he cops to it. And people have that comparison. And they may say, oh, CBS got caught, but you know what? The rest of them do it too. The difference, of course, being the question of having a license from the FCC to have stations and have broadcast frequencies and all the rest of it. But still, the point is, we've got the comparison. It's already there. We can make it as rational human beings and say, you know what? I may not like any of the people in those crazy channels, but at least they tell it straight, unedited, and I can then judge for myself instead of having it prejudged for me. That's huge. That's huge.
Indeed. And folks, let the credits roll for this one. Well, it is in the bank. We are done here. We're over and out. But before we go, there's one thing we must shout to you, and we do it in the kindest way possible. Folks, it would be such a pleasure if you could consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and that notification bell. Click it, stick it to the algorithms. You bet. Don't forget also, as you get ready to leave, drop a comment down below if you have not yet, for we would love to know what's on your mind. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. Join a community dialogue. Folks, as we get ready to leave, we say to you, and we mean it, keep learning, keep growing, And no matter what the world might do or what your station might be, up or down, you keep having fun.
Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.